Good afternoon, everyone, or almost good evening, I guess, to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, September 29th. It being 5 o'clock, we will start the meeting and call it to order. First thing on the second thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. If I could have someone move that, if I could, please. Thank you, Leanne. Seconded by Jim. That's great. Anyone have any declarations of interest? Seeing none, moving on, we have the minutes of the previous meeting, which was September 10th, 2020. And if I could have somebody move that the Planning Advisory Committee minutes dated September 10th, 2020 be accepted as presented. Moved by Leslie, thank you. Seconded by Leanne, thank you. And moving on to the meat of the agenda, our first item in under agenda items is 5.1. It's report 08-2020 regarding a temporary use bylaw, and it's in regards to the address of 481 Macaulay Road. So we could start discussions. If I could have somebody move that the Planning Advisory Committee recommend that Council approve a temporary use bylaw that would allow for a home occupation of animal care in the residential zone R1 at 481 Macaulay Road in Prescott, which will include the following. And if you could just bear with me, because it will mean a lot to people who don't perhaps have the agenda. If anybody's going to be watching this later, let me read the items out. It would, number one, it would allow for an in-house animal care program that would follow the town's animal control bylaw in terms of the types and numbers of animals on site. Number two, that anytime the animals are taken off the property, that they will be leashed. Number three, that the backyard be fenced at the dwelling, so that should the business owner have any concerns with animals, they can be confined to the backyard of the dwelling and must be under supervision. Number four, that tags will be issued each year for the business for dogs, which may come with no tags so that they can be returned properly. Number five, that the business understands that at any time with proper notice, the temporary use bylaw can be revoked by the bylaw officer. And number six, that this bylaw will be only valid until December 31st, 2022, at which time it will cease to exist. If I could have somebody move that, please, for conversation purposes. Thank you, Leanne. Seconded by Jim. Thank you. And as just to get the discussion going, as you might all recall, we did discuss this back in June, and for many different reasons, then mainly I believe having to do with the letters of being received around the area opposing the recommendation. We did deny it back in June. However, it needs, because we're a committee, it always has to move up to council for final support, and council around the table asked the committee to review and go back and review it once again, and perhaps allow staff to get further information for us, which indeed they have, thanks to Mr. Merriman. We have supporting documentation now that the 5 people that were opposed to it, 4 of which has signed petition, if you will, for lack of a better word, now agreeing that they are fine with the terms of which this recommendation comes with. And the 5th one I was in communication with him yesterday, and he asked for me to say verbally that he too had a chance to speak with the taxpayers, and he too is comfortable with the proposed recommendation. So, Mr. Merriman, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I would like to add is, as much as staff, certainly was grateful to coordinate the information, it was really the applicants and their daughter that went around and explained things a little better. The only thing that staff wishes they had done better at the beginning was explaining that it really wasn't a kennel. It always was just an animal care, and that was the intention from the beginning. And we also think this temporary use bylaw is the wisest way to go, because we had heard comments back that there was concerns about using site-specific zoning. And by doing it through a temporary use bylaw, it gives us a chance to let zoning catch up with what we perceive will be the intent in the future. You know, not that there's any guarantees what way the zoning is going to go, but it gives us time to properly discuss it and figure out if it does belong in the zoning as an acceptable home occupation. I did forward this report to the Smiths the other day. At this point, I have not heard any concerns from them, but I would like to ask that through you, Madam Chair, that they confirm that that they're happy with the conditions that were listed.
Mr. Smith, if you or your daughter, if either one of you would like to reply to that, that would be great.
Yes, but before I begin, I just want to say thank you to the council for giving me the chance to appeal and to ask to reconsider again. As I mentioned earlier, my business is not a kennel, as they only allow up to 2 animals at a time, and they are kept in the house during the majority of the day. In addition to these list of demands, I will gladly comply with, given my business has been approved.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, or comments or questions for Mr. Merriman or perhaps the Smiths to help come to a decision, Leanne?
Thank you. In the beginning, I was declaring a conflict of interest, but it was brought to my attention. I was just given that letter just out of courtesy, because I am technically living in the neighborhood. It's nice to know that it's not going to be a kennel, and it does make a big difference. And I totally support this endeavor. I think it's a fantastic idea that you're going to be taking animals into your home and caring for them without cages. And I look forward to seeing you around in the neighborhood, walking some dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, if you would.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee and staff and Smiths. I think temporary use is the way to go as well on the property. I think, as Sean mentioned, it's a good way to try and just test drive the use. I will say that site-specific zoning bylaws, personally, there's nothing wrong with a site-specific zoning bylaw in my view. I know it was mentioned at planning committee last time, but there are good precedents and there are bad precedents. So for a use like this, I don't see anything wrong with a site-specific zoning bylaw at all. I really would be opposed to as of right zoning for this type of use in a residential area, but that's for another day when the town looks at their documents again. So I just thought I'd put that on record, but that's for another day. I just wonder for Sean, I have a question, Sean, in terms of the home occupation would allow an animal care home occupation. Would it help to define what an animal care occupation is right in those temporary use zone provisions? So that's one question. You could include that right in there in my view. And I guess that's the only comment I have at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to comment on that, Sean?
Yeah, I'm more than fine to add it to the draft bylaw. I have a couple different examples that I can use already in the various communities that are nearby. The only thing I don't know, and I need some direction from Kimberly, does the PAC committee have to see the definition before I take it to council?
For you, Madam Chair, Sean, do you have a definition in mind that the committee could agree on tonight, and we can add it in and have it rise to council on Monday?
The only problem, I've got several. The problem is I'm up in Toronto. Matthew, do you have one? Do you happen to have GANs there? I liked GANs.
So what I was thinking is a home care occupation would be where the number of animals do not exceed the animal control bylaw and are maintained within the home itself, as opposed to outside or anything from that perspective. So that would be my suggestion. Fairly simple, straightforward. First of all, in complete compliance with animal control bylaw. Secondly, that it's within the home as opposed to outside the home. They would be kept. And really kind of listing the other type of stipulations that are currently in this particular bylaw.
And I could add something to it where I could say something like including dog walking, dog grooming, you know, something like that.
Is that something you had in mind, Jim?
Yeah, I certainly don't mean to slow this application down at all. So I think, yeah, something simple like that. I just think it'll help dismiss as they move forward and you know exactly what their business is. And if it is ever questions, it's right there in the zoning bylaw. So yeah, I have no trouble with that. And I don't want to slow the application down.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Concerns? Okay. Call all in favor? Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Smith, for taking the time once again to come. We thank you for your patience, and once again we want to just express how much we admire your passion for animals.
Thank you very much for taking the time to consider all this.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, moving right along on the agenda. The next one is 5.2. It's report 09/2020, proposed zoning bylaw amendment at 555 King Street West. The recommendation being that the Planning Advisory Committee recommend that council adopt a zoning bylaw amendment under section 34 of the Planning Act to remove the special exemption RW2 to allow for all uses as noted in the CW zone in the town of Prescott. If to get this underway, could I have somebody move that, please? Thank you, Jim. Second, Leslie, thank you. And I will let, I believe it's Matthew, is that right? I'm just scrolling down here on the agenda. Are you to speak to this? Matthew, yes?
Is that myself or Sean? Can't remember.
Okay, just 2 seconds. Sean's report was so long and my finger is starting to hurt. Oh, here we go.
Okay, John, did you want to speak to that one?
Yeah, I got the same problem. I'm getting to the bottom of it.
It is Sean's report. Sorry, Matthew. Thank
That's
you.
okay.
Just to give us a short background, it's otherwise known, of course, as the medical center, health center. So if
Yes.
you wouldn't mind speaking to that, John?
No, I don't mind. Thank you. I did get there. Thank you for your patience. So a zoning bylaw amendment for this particular building was submitted to the town on February 19, 2020. Then, of course, COVID happened, and so the meeting itself had to be canceled. We did originally try to set up something in June, but when we went to do that, a couple of the other owners of the property came to us and asked that the entire property be rezoned and to remove the special exemption. I did an analysis of the official plan, our guiding principles, and also just as important, I took a look at the historic use of the property, and the site-specific zoning that it had was extremely rigid in that it only required or allowed 3 types of occupation to be held in that property. A review of the history of what was going on in that property indicated that it would be much more beneficial to allow all the uses in the RW zone, because although this property will always probably remain in what I call the health unit field, it certainly opened up the ability for various things to be in there, from social help to mental health help to the hearing clinic that is in there at this time. So at this time, it is simply a request to remove the site-specific zoning and allow all the uses that are in the CW zone.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Merriman, does anyone have any questions to start the discussion or concerns or comments regarding the 555 King Street West changing its, taking away the special exemption? I think it at the time, who would know, but at the time it probably made a whole bunch of sense where it outlived its purpose currently. Leslie, did I see your hand up? No, sorry, thank you. Anyone needing explanation or further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. And the third one is being 5.3 Report 10/2020. It's a sign bylaw variance application under section 3.6 of the Town of Prescott sign bylaw, which was in 2019, number 16. Recommendation that the Planning Advisory Committee receive the staff report on file number SBV 2020-01 and approve the variance requested of the sign bylaw 2019-16 for the following conditions: that the applicant coordinates with the other town departments to make sure that the placement of the sign will not cause any issues, either visual traffic issues or maintenance concerns by the various town departments. Could I have somebody move that, please? Thank you, Brett. Seconded. Thanks, Jim. And this one is also Sean's report, and it, of course, has the address that has to do with our location, our new fire hall location. So, Sean, if you wouldn't mind just doing the highlights of it and where it came from.
No problem, yes. The fire department advised the building department that they were planning on putting up a new electronic sign in front of their building. As the group is aware, when the new sign bylaw was passed last year, it was determined that all electronic signs would be brought before this committee to determine if it made appropriate sense to have it at that location. In this case, it's extra sensitive on two fronts, one being that it's a town property, and second of all being that it's down in the downtown area, which has design guidelines. The whole purpose of this sign is more of instructional, what I call instructional and educational and informative. The fire department is not sure of the exact location yet of where they wish to place it in the building, which is what led to the condition that we were going to put on it, that we make sure that all departments work together to make sure it's in the best location. And from taking a look at the sign that they were proposing and was forwarded to you, and considering the role that the fire department plays in educating the public, we felt that it met the intent and purpose of the sign bylaw. Matthew requested that even though it is for the town, that it follow the regular procedures, any other sign that would be requested in the town, and that is why it is in front of you this evening. And therefore, staff supports, in principle, the theory of an electronic sign in front of the fire department at 302 Center Street, although it's more likely to be on the Henry Street side in terms for where it would be viewed.
Sean, the visual that you supplied with us with the agenda, that's just an example. It's not what, like it's going to look kind of like that. Is that the idea?
As I understand it from the fire department, it'll be very similar to that type of sign. It may not be exactly like, but that's what they were aiming for. And they wanted to make sure before they proceeded any further that they would have the blessing of the town to install it.
So what would that be? Like 8 feet? What, like in length?
I'm thinking it's going to be about 8 foot in length by about 2 feet or 3 feet of actual sign frontage, and it probably up about 2 feet off the ground.
Okay, thank you. questions, concerns, and or comments for Mr. Merriman, or just discussion? It certainly will show the fire, our fire hall and all our firemen. It's such a nice partnership already with the town. This is just yet another indicator of that. But I appreciate Matthew's concern of just doing it right, so there's no issues from anyone.
Teresa,
Leanne,
I just
yeah.
wanted to, Teresa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yep.
I just wanted to add, yeah, we've talked a little bit with the fire hall about this as well. I think it's going to be a really nice sign. It's big, but it should be far enough away from, like, there's no residential directly there right across the street from it. They can dim it. There are options there as well to if there are any issues with the neighbors. So I think it's. Despite the location, which is in a residential neighborhood, it's still a good location for it. And there's going to be some good town presence on the sign as well, with the town logo on the top too. So I think it's going to be a nice addition to the property.
Great. Thank you. Leanne, did you have a comment as well?
Yes, I do. If through you, Madam Chair, to Sean, if I may. Sean, did they discuss with you exactly what they are looking to put on the sign and doing over the course of why they want the sign there? And
Well, like I said, most of it will be educational stuff, like don't forget to check your batteries in the smoke alarm. Please be advised there's a fire ban when there's a fire ban. Possibly different events that the fire department's involved with. Stuff like that, and including stuff, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but like don't play with matches and all the normal educational stuff that the fire department provides often on their signs that you see around various communities. It'll just be a more modern way of doing it to make sure that they can change the message as needed when needed.
Any follow-up, Leanne?
yes, thank you. If I could, with Matthew, do we know where the funds are coming from? Are they coming right from the fire department themselves, or are we partnering with them in order to put the sign up?
No, my understanding is that this is all coming from the auxiliary. So we certainly had some input in terms of wanting to make sure that it had a good look and things like that, but it is being paid for by the auxiliary and being able to contribute to the overall aesthetic.
Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, if no one else has any questions or concerns, all in favor? Perfect. Good stuff. Thank you. Thank you, Sean, for all those reports. On to new business for this evening. Does anyone have any new business they want to bring up? Okay, and
No, Madam Chair, sorry, just one quick question. Yeah, you're close, real close. I just wanted to ask through you, and I apologize if I missed this at the start of the meeting. I was in another appointment, but we did bring up information I think it was last meeting on the total investment with the CIP, and we did talk about rounding it all up with the private investment as well for the full impact. I'm just wondering if the CIO has anything like that ready to go yet, or has a time frame where that full document can be brought back here and also to council, so we can promote the great successes of the CIP.
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. We're working towards that. We're a good portion of the way through. We thought we would bring it back at the next meeting, which we hope to have in October, and just have a full understanding, and then be able to actually move that forward to council to actually sing a little bit of the praises of what we've been able to accomplish.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks. Sorry, Brett. And that might be just beautiful timing for the budget. So there's no real issue with not adding, but keeping that same budget line for hopefully next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think coming out of that, if we endorse that, then that would be a good motion for this committee to pass as well, so that that they're able to put that forward to council as a recommendation.
Okay, any follow-up, Mary Todd? No. Okay, well, number 7. Somebody move adjournment if they would, please. Thanks, Nan. Second by Leslie. Thank you. All in favor? Everyone have a nice evening, and thank you very much for your time during this prime time of the day. So that's great. And hopefully, if not before, we will see you next month.
Thanks, everyone. Go Blue Jays.
Ooh, good one.